All right. So if everybody's ready, I'm going to try and see if I can share my screen with you guys. I will need someone. Oh, Kim, you disabled screen sharing. So you need to enable screen sharing.
And Kim, you need to turn your mute back on because we can't hear you.
Also, I think in order to record, I have to have my mute on. So let me.
No,
you
should.
Okay, yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
One person is fine. It's when we have 20 that or even 5 that it gets to be a problem.
Yeah.
Also, Kim, if you make her a co-host, then she can do whatever she needs to do.
Oh, that's of course. Yes. Okay. So let me find how I do some of this stuff.
Okay.
Thank you, Mathis.
Yes.
You're welcome. I've dealt with this with another group, so that's why I know these
how
things.
do I do the screen?
Yeah, I do. I just didn't want to tell anybody what to do.
Okay, I'm having a hard time finding the screen share. I had it before. Okay, share screen. Okay.
I think if you will click on the participants, Kim.
Yes.
And then you see her there, and there's a more, and you can make her a co-host.
Okay.
And then that'll give her the power to do whatever needs to be done.
Okay. So there we go. So Candy, you are set.
All right, awesome. Well, hello, gang. How are you? Wave if you're happy. You're happy you're here. Wave if you're happy you're here. Thank you. One person wave. I'm so happy to see you guys. I'm really excited to talk to you. I love you guys. I've been out there a couple of times, not in a few years, but I would love to come back at some point, maybe do an all-day workshop. This workshop is 10 things you need for a bestseller, basically. But as I said before, it is more like 40 things. So you're going to want to take notes. If there's a problem, I'm hearing clicking. I don't know where that's coming from, but if you have a problem, just sort of let Kim know, and I'll pause. Write down your questions for me. You're going to have a lot, and we'll go through every single one at the very end. That way I'm not going off on tangents and things, okay? All right, I'm going to try to do share screen, and we're going to see what happens. Okay. Open system preferences. Oh, we should have done this before. Okay, Zoom. Oh, I didn't have Zoom. Okay. No, I don't want to end the meeting. Cancel. It's not letting me share my screen. Hold on.
You may have to drop off and reconnect to do that. I've run into that on Mac as well.
Yeah, I think I do. I'll be right back, guys, okay? Can you guys see it?
Yes, I can see it.
Can you guys? Okay, good.
Yes.
It is not letting me go into full mode, I think, because Zoom wants me to see you guys over here. All right, it's saying my internet connection is unstable. Of course it is, because we're getting ready to start. If I get garbled or something, Kim, just speak up and let me know, all right? Okay, guys, and now my mouse isn't working. It's all good. All right. So where should your story start? And if you don't know who I am, I'm Candace Havens. I've written about 40 books. I've published traditionally with New York houses, mid-level publishers as well, and small publishers. I've written for Berkeley and Harlequin and all those guys. I am currently doing cozy mysteries and sweet romances. I've transitioned from super sexy contemporaries. I'm also doing YAs right now. I should have grabbed a book. Maybe I'll do that at the end and show you. I have the cutest covers in the world. Or if somebody has that and can share it, I'd be super grateful. What we're going to do today is for all types of writers. I want you to know that, even when we talk about structure and things. And so I'm very excited to talk to you guys, and we're going to get started. All right, where to start? Most stories don't begin in the right place. Years ago, maybe 12 years ago, I was talking to one of the publishers from Berkeley, and she was talking about usually the first 100 pages of even the most successful writers. I'm talking Stephen King and people like that don't always start where the book should, right? The first 100 pages are usually, as Britta Coleman, a lot of you guys know Britta, used to say, is a giant fish head. And so you need to be brutal and start with the action. We do not need every single, I'm looking at you guys, so now I'm crooked. Okay. We don't need every single piece of information about that character in the first few pages, guys. We need you to start with the action and show us through their actions, through their dialogues, who they are and what kind of story this is. And you'll be surprised how many people do not do this. As an editor at Entangled, I usually end up cutting or having the writer rewrite the first 2 chapters, because usually their book doesn't start until chapter 2. And it's, if they're doing split POVs, a lot of times that POV that's in the second chapter is stronger than the POV that's in the first. And if you don't know what POV is, that's point of view. And there are no dumb questions here, because for years, I didn't know what things were like GMC. I couldn't figure out what cars had to do with things. So you can ask me whatever you want to ask me, and we'll get to GMC later. It doesn't have anything to do with cars, and POV doesn't have anything to do with prisoners of Vietnam. Britta taught me that one. And so she kept saying, you switched POV, and I'm like, what do prisoners of Vietnam have to do with my story? I don't understand. And so so Britta taught me that as well. You should always reveal character, always throughout your book, but especially in those early pages. We want to know who this person is, yes, but I don't want the backstory about how his mother died and then he was raped when he was 21. I don't want to know any of that stuff, all right? I only want you to tell me what I need to know in the moment to take this journey with the character. And this is a mistake, like I said, even successful writers have a problem with, okay? Tell us what the story is. And I don't mean like telling and showing. I mean, I need to know, is this a mystery? Is this a romance? Is this an adventure story? What kind of story is it? I should know really in the first page, but in that first chapter, I should have a good idea who this character is, what kind of journey they're taking, and then also what kind of story it is. Okay? Begin as close to your meet cute. This is another mistake people make. You can't have 50 pages before your story starts, okay? So you want to start as close to your meet cute or inciting incident as possible. All right? Do you understand what I'm saying? You want to start that inciting incident is when everything changes for the character and the journey begins. So you want to be as close to that as you can get. All right. And always move your story forward. What happens is that people will start with action, and then 2 pages later, it's 6 pages of backstory. Okay. And they're trying to tell me everything about the story I don't need to know, or the history of the character, or why the character is there. Show me why. All right. So where to start? Start as close to the action as you can and reveal your character as you go. All right. Big characters. This is one of the most important things you can have in your book. It's what people will remember about your books. One of the things I feel like I've really found my niche with the cozy mysteries that I'm writing because people have fallen in love with these characters. They love Ainsley. They love her dog, George Clooney. They love the old Mrs. Whedon who wears avocado every day. And I'm slowly, through books, revealing things like, why does she wear avocado every day? But I don't tell you everything all at once, right? And so these are little things as the series goes along that you learn, and they're little Easter eggs for readers who read the whole series. But I am showing who these people are, and they fall in love with them, which is a great thing. Like it's been the most liberating, lovely thing doing these cozy mysteries, and it's something I wanted to do for a long time, but I just, was so in the romance genre that I didn't do it. But big characters are important in every type of novel. You'll hear character driven or story driven. And the truth is, if you want somebody to remember your books, whether it be Game of Thrones or, Mrs. Lilypad, you have to make sure your characters are memorable, right? You have to make us care about them. They can be crotchety, curmudgeonly, whatever it is, but you have to make us care about them, right? We have some great characters, and we'll talk about those in a minute in literature that help you remember, and you will know every single name I'm going to bring up because the author did their job. So make us care about them, make them memorable. How do you do that? You give them flaws, ticks, and make them three-dimensional people. Authors have a lot of trouble with this. I run across in editing, I've probably edited 5,000 books by this point. That's probably on the low side. We were trying to add it up the other day, but I've been editing for 7 years now. And at the beginning, I was doing close to almost 30 books a month. It was a ridiculous amount of books I was doing. And so I've done a lot. And then I've also edited a lot of articles and things like that. So, and written over 5,000 articles, closer to 8. So but when you're talking about people, whether it's in real life, or if you're doing some sort of autobiography or anything like that, you still have to give these characters flaws, ticks, and make them three-dimensional. And that's what helps make them feel real and different. No TSTL. TSTL is something else I run into a lot, and that's characters who are too stupid to live. They make really dumb decisions that don't go along with their characters. It's, the whole thing where the woman walks into the basement where the monster is, if she's a kick butt, vampire slayer, that's okay. But if, she's a woman who's 93, she probably shouldn't have been going down the basement in the first place. So don't do too much TSTL because it will annoy your readers. Female characters need to say themselves. This is a big switch, especially after Me Too. But your characters, especially in romance or mysteries, don't need to be saved by a man. Okay, sorry guys. They usually, and this is true in real life, I find, it's the women saving the men, right? And so that happens a lot more often than the other way around, I think. And that's not sexist or, man bashing. That's just the way it is in my life. I have a husband and 2 sons who are grown, and I still feel like I'm saving men every day. And so you want to make sure that you're giving those women dimension as well, not doing flat characters, not doing, the girlfriend, the whatever, that sort of thing. And even if it is the girlfriend, flesh her out, make her really interesting. Your characters will be very boring and cardboard. That was hard for me to say together. If you don't challenge their flaws. And their flaws are that innate thing that keeps them being successful at their goal. And by that, let me give you an example. It's probably not going to be a very good one because it's off the top of my head. So he thinks all women are gold diggers, right? A very sexist male point of view. And she looks like one, right? And so she's challenging his flaws, and he's interested in her. And then he gets to know her and realizes she's not that thing. But then at the end of the book, those flaws are going to be challenged again. The more you challenge the flaws, the more interesting and dynamic that character is going to be. Make their GMC clear from the get-go. What is their goal? What is their motivation? And what is their conflict? So what is their goal that they want to achieve by the end of the book? All right. What is the motivation behind that goal? Why? What's the why? And we're going to talk about that in a minute. And then the conflict is what you're throwing in front of them to keep them from achieving that goal, right? And a lot of people are missing that C, okay, with their characters. It goes for the plot of your book as well as your characters, right? And so your goal and motivation and conflict need to be right at the beginning of the book. All right. Don't tell me she's angry because show me. All right. Always keep them from their goal. We tend to do nice, another thing I learned from Britta, and want to not punish our characters, but punishing our characters is what keeps the reader turning the page, right? We don't have to beat them up or anything like that. We just have to keep them from their goals. Even villains, and this is very important, must feel real. Some of the best stories, the Hannibal Lecter stories, right? That is a villain who is vicious and awful and terrible and so incredibly interesting, right? And so that's the sort of thing you want to do. You don't want to do stereotypes like, you know, the ex-wife who's, you know, crazy or whatever. Challenge those things. Don't go with the stereotype. Make them feel real and get really deep with the POV. This is one of my pet peeves as an editor. If you've been writing for a while, you know that you need to get rid of those filter words, you know, like should, could, would, saw, heard. All of those need to go. And if you don't, you're not deep POV. And if you're not deep POV, we go back to the emotion, the reader cannot feel what your characters are going through, and you have not done your job. Okay. I want you guys to know I'm wearing a t-shirt that says fueled by coffee and dry shampoo. I couldn't remember which one it was, because I'm very serious right now talking about these things and telling you what annoys me. But at the same time, it's not brain science, guys, or brain surgery, and we're all going to live. It's going to be okay. All right. And so I do want you guys to get this. But at the same time, you know, if you're like, oh my God, I don't have this, or oh my God, I don't have that, it's okay. That's why we're here. You're learning. Awesome for you. All right. And awesome for me, because you guys are so much fun. All right. We're going to move on to big character part 2. So I want you to think for a minute, what do these people have in common? Stephanie Plum, Harry Potter, Jane Eyre, Fitzwilliam Darcy, and Edward Cullen. And if you don't know one of those names, A, you need to read more, and B, what's wrong with you? So all of those characters are characters that stand out, right? And that's what you want. You want characters that people will remember. In the Stephanie Plum books, you know, Grandma Mazer is one of my favorite characters. When she shoots that hole through the chicken with the gun, I'm done. Like, she is my favorite character of all time in a book, right? And so that I can remember her name, and I probably haven't read a Stephanie Plum book in a few years. It says something because I can't remember my own characters' names, right? And so that's what you want to do. You want to create these characters that people will never forget. You don't want to have a throwaway book. All right. Pick character part 3. Did I mention characters are the most important part of your book? Make them distinctive. And what is the essence of them in one sentence? If you can't tell me who that character is in one sentence, not saying like an angry man who is down on his luck. No, that's not what I want to do. I want you to show me who he is, right? Through a piece of dialogue or something like that. Show us their personalities through that internal dialogue. One of the reasons people like Ainsley McGregor, who is the heroine of my Cozy Mystery series, is that she's very self-effacing. Not that she puts herself down. She's okay with her body and things like that, but she has horrible taste in men, and she is always getting into trouble, right, as she tries to find out what happened in a murder case. And so people really like her little quirks and ticks. She eats a lot of cake, and she drinks a lot of coffee. And she has this great dog, George Clooney, who is basically her soulmate, right? He's a Great Dane. He's her soulmate. So people come in and out of her life, but people love that adventure and feel for her, and they understand her because maybe there's a little part of them in her, right? And that can only happen if you've made them three-dimensional. I'm not saying she's the best character ever, but she is memorable to a lot of people. And her dog even more so. Like for some reason, everybody remembers the name George Clooney. I don't know why. So show us their personalities through that internal dialogue and give us some idea who they are. You don't want any sort of cardboard cutouts. Never go for the cliche, like I talked about, those stereotypes. Always twist them. So in my early books, in Charmed and Dangerous books, I had an Arab character that actually built homes for women and children who were abused, basically. It's a very small part of the story. And then I made him very aware of the female plight and something like, because people don't think of Arab characters that way, but I had just read a story about this prince who had done exactly that. Right. And so that made him a little bit more, and people could not decide, should she marry the doctor or should she marry, the Saudi Arabian prince guy. So, and I felt like I had done my job at that point. Let's move on. High concept. Raise your hand if the phrase high concept scares the heck out of you. I don't see any hands. Thanks, Kim. All right. Thanks, Bill. And I don't think I could see the rest of you, so I'm not picking on people, but thanks. All right. So high concept is mass appeal, right? It's a story that will have mass appeal. If you have a very niche story for a very niche audience, a lot of time horror is one of those things, then you're probably not going to have mass appeal, right? But high concept, A, isn't as hard as people think, and then it is sometimes the hardest thing in the world. Every book needs some sort of hook, all right? What makes your book different? And in one sentence, and at the end of this chat, I would like to hear some of yours. In one sentence, tell us what your story is, okay? Be original, or at the very least clever with your twist. Right, we use a lot of the same tropes. There's nothing new under the sun, but it's how you make that trope different, all right? It's how you twist that story. Show voice, which will help when you're doing that one-liner, like if you were going into a pitch meeting with an editor or an agent, or if you were going to a pitch meeting for a film, that voice will help show that person what your book is. And if you can't narrow down your book into one sentence that shows us the type of book it is and the type of character who's your hero or heroine, then you've got a problem. All right. If it takes you 10 minutes to tell me what your book is, you have a problem. Okay. So showing voice will help. You want to do what if, and then, what if so-and-so happened, and then so-and-so happened. But here's what people miss. But, okay, the conflict. But why can't he get there? Okay, or she get there? So that's, people always say what if, and then, but if you add the but, he can't because la, 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 la. All right. Okay, so what do you have for me? One sentence. We're going to do that in a minute, all right, at the end of the chat. So be thinking about that. I'm going to give you a minute when we're done to think about what you want to do. Keep your plot simple, people. I cannot tell you how important this is. For me, it's pretty much with the cozy mysteries. I give you lots of red herrings, but it's a very simple plot, right? Same thing with the romances. It's a certain kind of trope. Certain things are going to happen, but I try to shake it up and do different things. All right. Simple does not mean boring. Make it easy for the reader to understand. And I won't ask for a show of hands, but how many times have you read a book and you just want to toss it because you're like, I have no idea what's going on, right? And so you want to just toss the book around the room, right? Yeah, across the room. And so you want to make sure that it's easy for the reader to understand. That doesn't mean you can't have like a Da Vinci Code where you're constantly moving the story forward and finding different clues. That's very interesting and going to different places. But he makes it so that, you know, maybe the writing isn't the world's greatest, but you can read those books really fast because he keeps the plot fairly simple. There's a lot to it, and there are a lot of players, but he keeps the plot fairly simple. Don't jump the shark. And if you don't know what that is, jumping the shark means all of a sudden they're doing this thing, and then all of a sudden they're over here and they know everything. You can't do that. You have to show us the journey. You have to make it make sense. And you would be surprised how many people do not do that, right? Like whether it be the plot or characterization, all of a sudden they're totally different than they were 4 pages ago. And you don't want to do that. Do not jump the shark. And this is my phrase, no convoluted crazy. Like crazy plots drive me insane. Okay. You need to keep it simple for the reader to follow. And you don't want the reader having to go, wait, it wasn't so-and-so and so-and-so. And I thought that happened. And why is this happening now? And that happens when you have a convoluted plot, right? If you're trying to make it so, you have to shove these characters into a box and this is what's going to happen, but you haven't done the groundwork to make that happen, then you have a crappy book. I'm sorry, that's the easiest way to say it. So no convoluted crazy, people. Keep it simple. The character story arcs matter, okay? Their journey within this plot, really, they should be driving your plot. Always. The characters and their journey should always be driving your plot. Story-driven plots are boring. And there are a lot of thriller writers who will say, well, I write story-driven. No, you have really interesting characters who are going through crazy circumstances. And that's why your book is interesting. It has nothing to do with the actual story. It's your characters, right? So that story arc for your characters is very important. And guys, I know I'm throwing a lot of information at you all at once. I know. And you'll have plenty of time for questions at the end. And you're not going to get everything today, and that's okay. All right. You'll have this on a recording so you guys can watch it later. I'm not going to share my PowerPoint though, and I would ask that you guys not share it publicly because I'm working on a writing book, so please don't do that. But you'll watch this, you'll watch this, you'll watch this, and then you'll get it all. KISS, keep it simple, stupid. Okay, that's kind of mean. I know we shouldn't say the word stupid, but that's an easy way for you to remember when you start going off on tangents. And that's not to say you can't do the Jodie Thomas thing with the rabbits. Have you guys done that class where the rabbits jump off the train? I love Jodie, and I love the way she talks about how you have to bring those rabbits back to the train, and you don't necessarily have to tie it up in a nice neat bow, but you can't leave those tangents out there because it's very frustrating for the reader, right? So you want to keep your plot simple. Keep it simple, stupid. All right, moving on. Why does what your characters are going through matter? You've got to have tension in your books, all right? And people, how many of you read a book that has a saggy middle, right? A lot of books. A lot of books have a saggy middle, right? A lot of us have written books that have a saggy middle. And what we forgot is to remind people why these characters cannot reach their goals. Okay? So why does what your characters are going through matter to them? Why does this matter to them? Because if it matters to them, then it will matter to the reader. Many writers, as I said, experienced and newbies miss this, and they cannot reach that goal, right? So if you feel like you have a saggy middle, then what you're going to want to do is amp up that tension. All right. How do you do that? You remind the reader, you don't beat them over the head with it, but you put some sort of stumbling block in there that once again keeps them from their goal. Okay. That's how you amp up the tension in your book. And people make it so hard, and it's not. You know, luckily with Cozy Mysteries, it's sort of, you know, you've got your red herrings, and those are really your stumbling blocks, right? Because this person didn't do it and that person didn't do it. You just spent, you know, 10 minutes doing that and 20 minutes doing that. Whatever you're writing, you've got to keep those characters from the goal. Tension is what keeps the reader turning the page. They want to know. It's like people who have to watch Trainwreck, you know, or they're watch certain shows because I just watched like 24 hours of reality shows. I don't watch reality shows ever. But I fell down the hole of the Oklahoma, what is it? Sweet Home, Oklahoma, and its interior design and things like that. But the people are crazy, and her girlfriends are my girlfriends, although we don't prank each other so mean. They get kind of mean on that show, I'm not gonna lie. But I found it really, it's the characters that kept it compelling, right? And you kept waiting for the other shoe to drop, you know? And she has an ex-husband that lives with her and helps raise her 2 kids, but he's a recovering alcoholic. He's only been recovering on the right path. He's been in recovery 3 times. And, you know, you just keep wondering, and he's a child. He's a giant man child. That's not an insult. He owns it. And he's a lawyer, you know, who's fallen on bad times. And so a criminal lawyer, right? He's a smart guy, but he's a giant man child. And she puts up with it, and you're like, why? And then as you get to know her, you understand, but you're always waiting for that other shoe to drop. When is he really going to mess up? You know, that sort of thing. And so you want to make sure you have that on the page. A lot of writers don't. And I got to tell you, when you get a review that says, I could not put this book down, that means that you had your tension correct. Okay? Hooks and prompts. So a hook is at the end of the chapter, and it needs to be really interesting. And I don't care what you're writing, you need a good hook at the end. So the reader's like, well, I can't put the book down now. I got to find out what happens, right? And it's your dun, dun, dun. And it doesn't have to be somebody dies or somebody this or somebody that. It can be simple as, what am I going to do next? And the reader says, what are you going to do next? Let me see, you know? And so, I mean, don't do that at the end of every chapter. I did that once. I'm trying to remember. Oh, The Demon King and I was having trouble with the hooks on that book. And, as I was about to turn it into my editor, I thought, I'm just going to skim it one more time. And almost every other chapter ended with, but what if we die? You know, and I was like, oh, I can't do that. I got to shake it up a little bit, you know? And so, yeah, you'll find yourself doing the same thing over and over. Just fix it when you do your revisions. No big deal. And then a prompt is what you want to do. A very successful book will also have something at the top that makes you want to keep reading to find out what happens, right? So at the top of your chapter, and every book should begin with the most amazing sentence of your book, right? Because I will tell you, there are people like me and my snobby friends, and we go to Barnes and Nobles, or we did until COVID, and we get baskets of books, and we go and we sit in the coffee shop, and we read the first 3 lines, and if you don't grab us, we put the book in the basket and take it back and put it up. And so you've got that much time to grab your readers these days. And we're not the only snobs. And so you've got to do your job, right, of writing hooks and prompts that really pull the reader into the story and keep them rooted there. Always move your story and their journey forward. This is a note I give every single author, every single book. Some authors, I have worked on 20 books with them, and I still have to write that note, okay? You always need to be developing your characters and developing your story, all right? I had a book where the author had, and then she proceeded to do it in the next 4 books. And it was a great series and it sold, but a lot of work for me on the editing side of things, because she would have eat, shower, sexy stuff, eat, shower, sexy stuff, big action scene, eat, shower, sexy stuff, you know? And I would think you would want to do the shower after the sexy stuff, you know, at least shake it up that way. But that's what she did, right? And so she didn't even realize she was doing it. I was like, do you realize you have 5 shower scenes in this book? No, she didn't, right? And so sometimes it's hard for you to see. So that's why it's good to have, you know, a critique group or critique friends that can help you see that, you know, you did the same thing in 5 chapters straight. And you always want something new and different in that next chapter. I'm writing a book right now with my daughter-in-law, which is an Own Voices book, and it's Latino characters, and you know, they're dating and stuff. So I'm really having to shake it up. And then she's going in and layering things like conversations and things. And the family's more involved in any book I've ever done. And so it's really an exercise for my brain, right? To think of different ways and situations to put this couple in that aren't what I would do normally, kind of thing. And so, but my daughter-in-law is helping me with it. She's great. So you have to be able to move that story forward all the time. That's when people get bored. That's when people put the book down, when the story is not moving forward. Okay. High stakes writing. This is very important, guys. All of this is important. This is very important. What do the characters have to lose? All right. The reader has to know that at the beginning of the book. So every time they come across one of those stumbling blocks, right, that is the conflict, then the reader's like, oh no, she's going to lose everything, right? Or she's not going to be able to save her store, or she's not going to be able to save her dogs, or, you know, whatever it is. It all goes back to why it matters to the character, you know, why the goal matters. I have to blow my nose. I'm so sorry. Give me 1 second. Texas allergies, always so fun. I'll give you a chance to write everything down. Hopefully I don't have anything coming out of my nose. Somebody tell me if I do. Okay. Because I can't see myself. All right. So you want opposing stakes. If you have 2 lead characters, you want them to have opposing stakes, which will help you with your tension and your conflict. That's automatic tension and conflict if they are on opposite sides, right? Stakes mean conflict, which creates tension, and you see where I'm going with this. It's the same thing I keep saying over and over again. I have a middle slag here, but I want you to understand how important tension is to your book, because it is what keeps the reader turning the page. And your stakes mean conflict. They mean you have, if you have high stakes, then that means you have good conflict in your story. And conflict is the #1 thing that's missing in 98%. 98% of books do not have a strong conflict. Okay? That's how bad it is out there, people. That's what we editors go through. A reader should always be waiting for that other shoe to drop. And if you don't want that something bad to happen, that's also what it means. My daughter-in-law had never heard that phrase, the other shoe to drop. And so I want to make sure I explain that in case you've never heard that before. And she's from Lubbock. You would think she would have heard that. So, all right, moving on. Voice makes your book and you memorable. Voice makes your book and you memorable. I know voice is confusing for a lot of people. I got lucky. My voice comes out naturally in my books. I have a very snarky kind of voice for most of my characters, most of my lead characters. A lot of my books have humor. That's part of my voice. And I think some of my jokes today have not gone across well from the faces I saw. Everybody was very serious. So, but I have a very sort of dry sense of humor. And so author voice comes through, right? the writing. It's the style of writing. I write in very simple sentences. I write for mass appeal. I write so that a fourth grader can understand the book, as well as someone who is has more cognitive. They can see the layers, right? They understand, or they see the deeper meaning in things. So it's a very unconscious thing I do. Like, it's funny. With my first book, Charmed and Dangerous, I have this whole storyline, and it still makes me tear up now, that I wrote that I didn't realize at the time was therapy for my grandmother had just died from Alzheimer's. And I was having a very hard time. I was close to both of my grandmothers, like very, very close, favorite people in the world, kind of close. And when she died, I just lost it. I had a nervous breakdown, like a real honest to goodness one. And just had a really hard time. And right after that, I was writing this book, and all of those scenes had everything I was feeling in them, but it was my voice, you know what I mean? And at the same time, the character's voice was feeling all my feelings, right? And so it really came across in the writing, and people saw different levels there. Like, they saw her as because she's kind of a hard character, right, to like in some ways, but she's very self-effacing, which I am, and then she is also very kind-hearted, but in a hard way. I don't know how to explain it. And so people read that at a deeper level than I was expecting. I had a transsexual character in a book. Like, I just throw people in, like, it's just normal for me. And so I did this like 15 years ago. And it was based on a friend of mine who was very pleased. He's since died of pancreatic cancer. But when he was dressed up in drag and things like that, she would just had the best advice about life, right? So I made this person a spiritual guide for someone who can see the dead. And you got different levels there than you maybe normally would. And all of this is to say, my voice comes through my characters, but my characters also have a voice. And here's the difference. A 35-year-old witch does not sound the same as a 56-year-old man. Okay? A 16-year-old girl does not talk like a 22-year-old man or man-boy, because I'm sorry, men, I'm not bashing you, but you don't really grow up until about 35 or 40. I'm still not grown up. Like, I can throw that out there. And so, and I'm 50 something, 57, I think. Yeah, I don't remember. I honestly don't remember how old I am. That's sad. So character voice is different. So your style of writing is your voice. And some of your voice is going to come through your characters, but you need to be very careful that the character voices are very distinct. Okay, that's different than your author voice. And I know your head's like, but that's what you need to remember. And it's whatever your character's doing. Okay, if you have a sassy heroine and a shy best friend, they're not going to have even use the same language. And that's another thing that annoys me is you'll have characters and they all sound the same, right? Everybody uses the same phrases because that's your vocabulary, but you've got to step out of that box. And if you don't know what a 56-year-old man sounds like, you can come and sit on the couch with my husband. He's babysitting the dogs right now, and listen to him talk. If you can get him to talk, he doesn't talk much. But that's different. We can't I used to say go to the mall and just sit and listen to people, but you can't do that right now. But you could watch reality shows. And that's one of the reasons why I started watching that one is I was looking for some quirky characters and I felt like I wasn't quite getting the voice right. And so I started watching those shows and then I nailed it. Like, I just had to see something. I'm like, oh, that's who that is. I need to work. That's the voice. You know what I'm saying? It's just like when you cast a movie or anything like that, you want somebody who can portray that character. Is the actor exactly like that person? No, right? They're acting, but that's what you have to do. You have to act and be that character voice, whatever character that is. So important, people. Again, it's what makes your characters distinctive. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on structure and story flow, but it is a very important element of your book. You need to know the rules of structure before you mess with them, and you can mess with them. But a lot of the messing that I see these days are people who don't understand that you need some sort of rededication at the end, or a grand gesture, or something that gives your story a big wow, makes it memorable towards the end. People don't understand about big endings and how important that is to leave your reader on a high, so that that dopamine is flowing and they want to go and buy your next book. Like, I see a lot of problems with that. I see people falling in love too soon in romances, that sort of thing. So know the rules before you mess with them. Meet cutes and inciting incidents need to be fresh. If you're writing a romance, that meet cute is everything. All right. That's what makes your story different. If you're doing a mystery, it has to, I just killed Santa Claus. And so it has to be different with candy canes. And so that's coming in the next book. Don't tell anybody. So I don't know if I'm getting away with it. I just got my edits and I've got to do them today after this. And it's like, I hope I got away with that because it's really funny. Actually, he was killed by the North Pole. Goes right for his stomach, but he's got candy canes in his mouth and he choked. I know, right? It's different, right? It's different. That's my inciting incident and it's different. So when the bad guys close in, your flaws are challenged. So your first part of your book is your character's journey to get to the midpoint, all right? And I'm not going to get into everything because it depends on what you're writing. You guys write all different kinds of things there. And so basically, like if you're writing a romance, the first half of your book is the meet cute and them getting to know one another, right? In Harry Potter, it's the character's journey, you know, getting to Hogwarts, learning about magic, finding out about, you know, Voldemort and all of that stuff. All right. So then you get to the midpoint high where it looks like things are going well, right? In every book, and you can have a midpoint low, but they usually don't work as well. But if you have a midpoint high where it feels like, oh, everything's going to be okay, then you shift. And the second half of the book, pardon me, I got to drink some water, is your bad guys closing in. Much better. All right. So that's when those flaws are challenged. We'll go back to the gold digging thing. So he doesn't think she's a gold digger, and then he gives her some money, and he sees her give it to a man. I did that in oh my gosh, I can't remember the title of the book I wrote. It was my second to the last sexy romance, and I cannot remember what the name of it is. They changed it at the last minute. For some reason, that title escapes me. But she's giving money to her brother to help with his investment, so his business doesn't go under. But he thinks she's giving it to, you know, her boyfriend, basically. And he sees that she is a gold digger, you know. And then the credit card he had given her to buy stuff for his house gets stolen, and he thinks she's racked up all these, you know, charges. And so it just builds. So she, you know, so she seems weird when he gives her the check. And then a couple of chapters later, he sees her with another man giving him a check. And that's really weird. He wants to ask her about it, but he doesn't want to know, you know, her to know he saw her. And then he sees the receipts from the Black American Express card and just assumes, you know, that she's charged all this stuff, like a trip to Mexico and all that, and she's going to leave with that guy and they took his money, right? So all those flaws of his about gold digging women, because his father's been married 8 times, are challenged, right? That's the sort of thing I'm talking about. And that's what keeps things interesting. But then you also know the heroine's story, which is she's just helping her brother out and going through her therapy and stuff. And she's frantic because she can't find the stupid card. And she's worried, you know, she's lost it, and she has. And so it's someone else racking up all those charges. But when he accuses her and doesn't believe her, then she's like, I'm out of here, right? Okay. So that goes straight to the all is lost moment, which every book has, whether you're fighting Voldemort and you almost die, or it's the romance where she's walking out the door, right? Because he won't believe her and she's not going to be accused of things she didn't do. And so you need a really good gut-wrenching all is lost moment where your reader's like, oh man, that's what you want. And then you want a fist pump ending. And that's necessary for everything except a tragedy, which Nicholas Sparks writes. But even he has an ending where the character is like moving on in some way, right? He does not write romance. He writes tragedies. He's very clear about that. And even then, he gives us a little bit of positivity at the end, even though everyone just died, right? That's how Nicholas Sparks writes. And that's fine. That's his still. But you want most of the time to have a happier ending, not just for romance, for everything, so that the reader gets that flood of dopamine. It's a real chemical reaction when they read something that makes them go, oh, yay, right? And so you want to make sure you have that in. So I know I've done my job at the end of the book, because when I skimmed to the very end of the editor's note, she's like, you made me cry, and it's a good thing, right? Okay, transitions. And I only put this in here because most people are missing them from one thing to another. Transition between paragraph, transitions between chapters. A lot of people are missing their transitions. Like they get from point A to point D, and there's no B and C. So just know your structure, right? And your ebbs and flows and all of that. A good mix of introspection, action, and dialogue. If you've taken the Margie Lawson class and you highlight all of that in the highlighters, which I can't do, I think it's awesome, but it drives me crazy. But I'm not anal enough for stuff like that, and I usually don't have time. But it's good for you to do on 1 or 2 pages to make sure that you've got the flow right. And so mark up those introspection, action, and dialogue. And introspection is the internal thoughts, guys, if you're not sure what that is. And then I think action and dialogue are self-explanatory. If they're not, you can ask me at the end. It's okay. No dumb questions. Okay. We've talked about conflict a lot. You have internal conflict, which is everything for your characters. All right. If they don't have some sort of internal conflict, then your story is going to be boring and they will not be memorable. External conflict is great, but you have to have the internal conflict. Okay. There can be a lot of stuff coming at them. That's fine. But they've got to have the messed up insides to make them 3-dimensional. Pardon me. My allergies have been fine all day, and then just all of a sudden, goodness. It drives your character arc, your conflict does, and the story. And you can use the past, like I said, his dad had married 8 times and he thought all women were gold diggers. He's never getting married. That's his internal conflict and also his flaw, right? With my Ainsley McGregor books, her flaw is she's not really a great detective. She always finds the killer, but her internal flaw is she doesn't really want to do it. You know what I mean? Like she does it and she helps her friends, and that's always the reason why she does it. But, it's not really her thing. And she's constantly having to worry about her brother, who's the sheriff, finding out she's helping with these things. And so she's also got that good external conflict where someone's always trying to kill her, right? But she has internal conflict as well. And so if you use the past, please keep it fresh. If it's a gold digging, whatever, I get that. The way I kept that fresh was the way the guy finds out his dad's married again, and he's worried about losing his company. He owns a Harley dealership, and a chop shop kind of thing. And, and they're, bikers and stuff, but he's worried his dad is going to give away the family fortune, to the next wife, because he's been married 8 times and it's cut in, And so So, and he has, you know, he has that external conflict, but also the internal conflict of, I will do anything to save my family. And he has lots of stepbrothers and stepsisters that he looks after, who he's putting through medical school. So he has all of these things going on, right? He's a really good guy, but it makes him very wary of women, basically. All right. Big emotion. We talked about this earlier. Hold on, what's that? I'm sorry if there's crazy stuff happening. I apologize. Emotion is one of the most important parts of your story. I know I keep saying that, but if you can't make the reader feel your book, it's just paper or a Kindle. You know what I mean? Like, if you can't make the reader feel things, then there's no reason for them to read that book. All right. So make a reader feel your book and you will have a fan for life. That's the God's honest truth, right? Do not tell emotions ever. I'm telling you right now, if I see he is angry, I'm going to come to your house and beat your face in, okay? Because you need to show your emotions. Kim, you're the only one who laughed. Everyone else is very seriously writing this stuff down. I'm not going to come to you. Okay, good. Yay. 2 other people left. All right. So you have to show your emotions. I don't care if you tell all the action. I don't care if you tell, you know, in dialogue even. Don't do that because dialogue's important. But when you are doing emotions, you need to show those emotions. Don't tell me he's angry. Show me. All right. That's how you get a reader to feel your book. It's the one time manipulation is a good thing. All right. You're manipulating your reader's feelings. And it's important to do that. You need to take them on highs and lows so that they remember. Okay. If you make someone feel something, whether it be anger or outrage or love or happiness, they will remember. Make me feel invested in what happens, right? And a lot of times you can use those internal thoughts to really show those emotions, okay? And use those visceral emotions for more feelings. So visceral emotions are the twisted gut, and you need a lot of those, okay? Some of the best writers probably have 10 on a page. Don't do that many, especially if you're starting out, because you'll end up using the same ones over and over again. I was looking to see, hold on just a sec. I'm going to reach for a book. I'll be right back. And I'm back. Okay. So I found this book. Can you guys see this? It's called 1,000 Character Reactions. I find this book really helpful when I'm stuck. And I'll tell you why. I got to switch glasses so I can actually read. So if you're trying to show something like side of the mouth quirking upward, a mouth gaping open, mouth watering, mouth drying, blowing a kiss, making a kissy face, just different ways to use the mouth, right? Eyelid twitching, eyes widening, which I don't always like, but forehead wrinkling, slapping or hitting the forehead. But there's this one, and then there's 1,001 emotions, which I thought was over here, but it's not. Pretty much done by the same person. But if you need a little help with those things, just to shake it up a little with those visceral emotions or to show those facial expressions, then that book can be helpful, as well as the emotional. Yeah, I got it right here. Hold on a sec. You should have these books. I don't like writing books, but you should have both of these books. So this is another good one to show emotion. That's the one I was looking for, right? A lot of you are shaking your head. I got to switch my glasses out. I just got new glasses for the computer, but they don't work for reading. Okay. Okay. So here's one, it just says grief, right? Shaky hands, movements that lack strength, a vacant look, or slack facial expressions, rubbing at one's chest, lashing out at others, a loss of appetite, lips that tremble and press together. You see what I'm saying? Those are visceral reactions, my friends, okay? And you need those in your book, sprinkled throughout, at least a few in a chapter, but one a page would be really great. 2 a page is better. So you're really showing those emotions, okay? I'm telling you, if you can make a reader feel your book, then you've done your job. All right, we're almost done. Number 11, and I know I said 10, but as you know, it's already like 40. So when you're putting your book together, if you're self-pubbing or traditional or whatever, packaging is everything. And I highly recommend, if you're working with a traditional packager or publishing company, you let them package it. They know what sells. They're going to the booksellers, and the booksellers are saying, this kind of book sells, but this doesn't. And they're listening. And we do that. Like, there are times at Entangle where we go back and redo a cover 5 and 6 times because the retailers don't like it, right? They don't think it'll sell. And then when we get it right, like something like Crave, which looks kind of like a Twilight cover, and we had 7 covers before that. And then, you know, that book's gone phenomenally. Well, it's a YA. It's really good, and you should read it, by Tracy Wolf. So that packaging was everything, though. That packaging helped sell that book. Most people buy by the cover and the blurb. You should have, if you're self-pubbing, you need to have, I do a little of both. I mostly work with traditional publishers, but I do a little bit of self-publishing with my sweet books. And so it's really important to have great packaging. And your cover and your blurb sell your book. It's the first, what we call point of sell, right? Your blurb should not be a summary. I can teach a whole class on these things. If you guys want me to come back, I'll teach you blurbs and things like that. But don't do summaries, and put voice in your blurbs. Put the voice of your lead character in your blurb. We get a lot of summaries. That is not going to sell your book. That voice that you've created, that character voice that makes them different and gives your story a twist, and that twist needs to be in your blurb. You need it, I say the who, what, where, when, and why. It's an old journalism thing, right? I've been a journalist for 32 years. Gosh, what's today? Yeah, 32 years. How about that? And so who, what, when, where, and why. That's what should be in your blurb, right? But make it interesting. And then study the market. You'd be surprised how many people don't do this. Look at what's selling on Amazon. Look at what's selling, and not just if you're doing self-pub. If you're doing traditional, look at what that publisher is doing well, whatever you're going after, all right? And you don't want to write the same kind of story, but you're going to read those books and find out how important the voice is and things like that, okay? Oh, and one more thing, great writing, right? Great writing is very important, and hone your craft, right? You're here, you're doing that. Yay, you, I'm proud of you. Keep doing that. Guys, I still take writing classes. You know, I took James Patterson's class, and I took, somebody else just recently. I can't remember who it was. I'm constantly taking classes. I've been doing this and successfully for 17 years now, and I still take classes. Okay. And there's a lot of free stuff online. There are a lot of people who are, Stacy Donovan from Hallmark Publishing. She has this whole series on YouTube that's really good no matter what you write. She talks a lot about romance because that's what they do. But she, you know, it's just short YouTube videos on what characterization is, or what, you know, how you need to do emotion and things like that. And there are a lot of people doing that sort of thing. Really great authors are doing that. I have some stuff up on YouTube, and then I do free classes and things like that. I'm leaving my stuff up here so you guys can follow me. And I'm going to let you know before I take questions, because I'll forget, that I do have classes online, paid classes through Teachable. And you can get to those through my website. Right now I have Fast Draft and Revision Hell. I'm getting ready to do 6 more different classes, everything from high concept to the big emotions that we talked about. And they'll be a little bit shorter and a lot cheaper. The Fast Draft is how to write your book in 2 weeks, and then Revision Hell is how to revise it in everything that, from fish heads to everything we talked about today and more. So you can get to all of that through my website. I hope you'll follow me on Instagram and Facebook and all of that. And I do have new books coming out. I don't have any of the covers here or anything because I'm dumb and did not set that stuff up. But I have everybody else's books on my desk. I'm looking around, but I don't have my own. But I have a new Christmas mystery coming out in October. It's A Case for the Toy Maker. That's what it's called. And then in that Ainsley McGregor, the first book is A Case for the Winemaker, and then a Case for the Yarn Maker just came out. And then I have some sweet books and a YA coming out soon. But my YAs are under Mackenzie McGuire. All right. And then the Latina book I was talking about comes out next December, hopefully with a movie. We're hoping. All right. So we're ready for questions. I'm going to stop sharing my page so I can see you guys.
I have a question.
Uh-huh.
What is meet cute?
Okay. So are you writing romance?
No.
Then you don't have to worry about it. But a meet cute is when the 2 characters meet. It's, when she trips over the dog leash and he catches her in his arms. Or she falls off the ladder into his arms, or, there's really fresher ones, but those are off the top of my head. So that's the meet cute. It's in every romance. And so that's the inciting incident in a romance, is the meet cute.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I've got your cover from the Yarn Maker.
Oh, there's my cover.
So
Cute. I love it. I don't have my Christmas cover yet. It's coming soon. I saw a mock-up of it. It's really cute.
Oh, yay.
What again was that? TSTL?
Too stupid to live.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. I didn't know that the first time.
Oh no, it's all right. I gave you guys a ton of information today, and I did it all in an hour and 5 minutes. So I know it's a lot.
It's all good though.
Oh yeah, good. I'm glad. I wanted to give you as many tools as I could. Like that's my whole goal in doing any of this stuff, is to make sure you guys walk away with your minds blown. That's my job.
Okay. Yeah.
Candace?
Yes.
I use a lot of internal dialogue in my stories.
Yeah.
And to show my internal dialogues, I do italics. And I have been told that breaks up my story, that it just slows it down.
Yeah. So you have too much. You have too much. And you can say in one sentence, and I do this with my authors, the people I work with, they'll tell you, from N.J. Walters to Sasha Summers, all those guys will tell you, you can say one sentence of internal dialogue can sometimes take a whole page to cut. You know what I'm saying? Like one sentence can say more. My friend Daryl used to say this about my writing. He's like, you say more in one sentence than most people say in a whole book. And I was like, thank you. And that's, you've got too much and you're not breaking it up. That's what I was talking about, a good balance of introspection, dialogue, and action. So you don't have enough action in your story if people are saying it's slowing down, right? If you have, the only books that should have a lot of introspection are are YAs, and even the dialogue, and because teens are very introspective. But what are you writing? Women's fiction? What are you writing?
Well, no, not really. I'm writing a memoir, and I'm really telling.
Oh, well, that's kind of different. Is it your thoughts? Is it your?
Right.
So that's
it's my thoughts when someone speaks something to me, like a teacher said something to me, and I just
right. So what you want to do is take some of that out and put it what we call on scene.
On what?
Okay. On scene, SCENE.
Okay.
So if you're telling me about something that happened in the past, and you're doing it, and guys, this is really just for memoir. Although I did it in a Charmed and Dangerous because I used a journal form, but I went in and out of past and present tense, right? So when it was on scene, right, those characters were actually talking. We were in the scene, not necessarily a flashback, but in that scene, okay? And then I would transition out of that to the present moment.
Okay.
If that makes sense. And that's what you need to do.
Okay.
And the reason why you need to do that is because you have too much telling, and telling makes your book boring. So you need to shake that up with short bursts of dialogue and action and things that happen, and not just tell us what happened.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Right. And I feel like I show quite a bit of action. I mean, there's a part where I talk about me going into a store, secondhand store, and buying a gun, and I show all my actions and everything. And my internal thought there was when the guy that sold me the gun begins to get a little flirty and everything, and my internal thought was just fuck you,
Yeah.
I mean, that's a short sentence, right?
Yeah. And that's fine. And that's a good internal thought. That shows us how she's feeling or you're feeling in the moment. That's great. But if you're just, and if he's flirting with you or something, if it's a purpose, and that's something we did not talk about in this class. Every scene should have a purpose, serve a purpose in your book, right? So, going in the store to buy a gun should be very exciting, right? It should be very exciting. Hopefully she's not gonna, you're not gonna shoot somebody, or I don't want to get too much into it, but basically you need to see it as an observer and take your story and put it on the page, on scene. Is somebody there that can help her, that can explain this better to her? Not now, but later. Can somebody help her sort of understand the difference? Yeah. Okay. Because I could go on with that question for an hour and a half alone. But yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, thanks. I needed to know that, because I did get someone saying, well, you have too much internal dialogue and it's in italics, and italics slows things down.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's great. Thank you.
Who else?
Christine.
Third book in a series. Y'all see me, or is the wind interrupting?
I can hear you.
And the inciting incident is really happening too late. The main couple is already together, but the mystery, the drama, like 3 chapters in, and
Christine, the wind is messing with it. Yeah.
and we're writing it. I'm going, this isn't where this needs to go. Okay.
No. You need to start with the mystery. All right. And then show us these people as you go along. So how I do that with my cozy mysteries is, I always put her, she owns a store called Bless Your Art. And so I always put her there. And by the end of chapter 1, the murder happens. Okay. Or someone is missing. And then by the end of chapter 2, the murder happens. Right. In Yarn Maker, it's the murder doesn't happen until chapter 2, but she's missing in chapter 1. In Winemaker, the murder happens in the first chapter. George Clooney finds the dead body. And so that happened 3 chapters. That's just too much. I'm sorry. I'm sitting here shaking my head, and I'm not being mean, but yeah, no. Where'd she go? Oh, there you are. You moved on my screen. I'm like, where'd she go? Yeah.
Did on purpose.
Yeah. Stop trying to hide from me.
And my question is about a series. How much time do you get to reacquaint your readers or new readers with characters that
You're looking at it the wrong way. So you should be writing every book as a single title book. It should read, it doesn't matter. You don't know that your readers have read the first 2 books, right? So I picked up Janet Ivanovich book 5 or 6, wherever Grandma Major shoots that chicken, whatever book that is. I was sick in a hotel, and I picked that book up, and I fell in love with her and went back and read all the other books, right? So you want to write every book as if it were a single title and introduce those people the same way you would if it was the first time. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And not go back and say, this is how we met. Like, that's all backstory. You don't need to know that. And you give us some clue as to why they're working together, and then you get to your mystery, okay? And you get to it faster.
Well, we don't have a lot of backstory, but we still have too much junk in there. So, okay.
You need that murder by the end of the first chapter, or somebody needs to be missing.
Okay.
That's from my agent. She's like, if it doesn't happen, I'm going to throw the book away.
And it's a murder that makes people mad. So, it's the dog. So.
Oh, you're killing a dog. That's like number 1 don't do.
Well, it's not really a dog. It's a horse.
Never kill animals.
I know.
You do you, but
He's a really bad guy.
yeah.
He's a really bad guy.
Okay, I have a question.
Thank you.
Christine's through.
Yes.
All right. In the story, a family finds a journal of one of their cousins back from 1937 Germany, and so the journal is the story and the mystery, but the family finds the journal, and so the story starts with the family finding the journal, and then they read the journal through. So should the story start with one of the journal entries and then show the family reading it?
No.
So what?
You want to start with your present day, whatever it is, but quickly get to that journal. And then hopefully your journal scenes are not all flashbacks. They're actually on scene, which is what I was trying to explain to Susanna, right? Or Susanna, I'm sorry. And so you want to make sure that's on scene.
Well, the journal they discover in the first chapter, how they discover it, and then chapter 2 starts the journal.
Okay. I'd have to see how you do your transitions, like into that and out of that. But yes, you've got the right idea. It needs to start with whoever finds the journal. Okay. And then, although, okay, so there's a trick I do, or I did with the Bronwyn books. What I would do is a prologue, and I don't like prologues as a rule, but I would take something from towards the end of the book that makes you wonder about it, and basically someone is dying, and I put it in the front, and you're like, wait, who's dying? What's going on? And I use that as a prologue. Right. And that actually helped sell my book. And so that was first, and then it started in present day, her waking up and whatever. You could probably read like how I did that. There's bad words. Please don't judge me. I was a lot angrier person when I wrote that book. but you could probably read that on Amazon and see how I transitioned in and out of that journal. It might help you. Like, I have to sit and think about it when I'm doing it. It's not easy. It's not easy to write a book like that.
Once the journal starts, the journal is continuous. There's no back interrupting with the family again. Once they start reading the journal, they're reading it through. So there's no, which makes that part much easier.
Okay.
But thank you, because your start of the story, it's kind of was confusing with how this needs to be done. But thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else?
Pick my brain, people. That's why I'm here.
Okay, tell me the name of that book you told me to read that's yours that had the journal in it.
You don't have to read the book. Just you can go on Amazon and read like the first few pages. But that's Charmed and Dangerous. It's a paranormal. It's a witch who charmed and dangerous. It's a witch who protects the British Prime Minister. It's kind of James Bond meets Buffy.
So did you write under another name?
Nope, Candace Havens.
Okay. Thank you. This has been really good today.
Good. I like to hear that. Yeah. Anyone else? Don't be afraid.
Yeah, she's really nice.
Yeah.
Really.
Now,
I just try to act mean. Yeah.
Yeah. Who was the one that was going to help me with the unseen thing?
I will, Susie.
Kim will help you. I know Kim knows what I'm talking about.
Oh, Kim.
Yeah,
okay. Well, that's great. She's in my critique group. Okay.
We'll get it.
Well, I just want to know when you've last spoken to George Clooney.
I think last January.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
It's time to catch up again.
Well, we're supposed to be in LA right now, but you know, stuff happened, and so we're doing everything virtually. I may see him like this next week. I think is when when's August 1st, whatever August 1st is. That's when we start press tour. So that's when I'll be interviewing all the people for the new shows. So.
Yeah. We'll tell
Bradley Cooper. Have you?
What?
I'm just being silly. I'm sorry.
No, it's funny.
Well, it was great seeing everybody. I don't have anything else. I don't know about the rest of you. I'm hungry.
Something to eat, Susie.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
I am writing my first young adult fiction, and I'd hoped to go to in our area at West Texas State University. They have a little Writers Academy class, and I'd hoped to go there and kind of get them to help me outline. Do you have any tips on the importance of outlining right now? It's kind of coming to me chapter by chapter, and I kind of know the general direction, but yeah.
Right. I'm more of a pantser, somebody who writes by the seat of their pants, but all of my publishers, my traditional publishers, have to have a synopsis of the book, which I hate writing. And so I highly recommend, I think it's James Patterson. I've been doing this for a long time, but I think James Patterson has a great class on Masterclass where he talks, or maybe it's the Goosebumps guy, one of them. Even anyway, so basically for each chapter, I have like a 2-sentence idea of the purpose of that chapter, the conflict, and then, you know, what needs to happen in that chapter. And sometimes it's as simple as she needs to blow this guy up here, you know, or, you know, something like that. Or, you know, somebody needs to come after her in a car, or, you know, sometimes it's that simple. And sometimes I get a little bit more detailed. I love the cat, Janet. That's hilarious. Normally there's a Great Dane to my right, a Shih Tzu at my feet, and a mutt on my other foot. So, they got banished from the island because they wouldn't be quiet. But yeah, so I'm not a big fan of that, but you really need to do it to make sure that your story stays organized. Even a 1 or 2 page synopsis, and it also helps with the writing. It's something I teach in Fast Draft. If you have that sort of basic outline to go through, you'll stay more organized and you can write faster. And I'm finding that with this this book I'm doing for Thule, the Latina book with my daughter-in-law, like we all worked, the publisher even, my editor and my daughter-in-law and I all worked on this synopsis together. And it's the easiest book I've ever written because I have page, I literally know what has to happen in almost every chapter. And so I highly recommend, if you can have some idea, it will help you.
Okay. Thanks. That helps.
You're welcome. All right. Well, I hope you guys. Oh, do you have a question, Bill?
Oh, I was just going to add on. You mentioned R.L. Stein's masterclass on middle grade and young adult fiction.
Yes.
He talked a lot about the outlining, and I was just going to say that was a great masterclass. So
yeah, it is. Maybe that's who I was thinking. I did it a long time ago, so I didn't remember which one it was. But yeah, and I'm, like I said, I'm not big on that, but that sort of outlining was really fast and easy for me.
Please say the man's name again.
R.L. Stein, S-T-I-N-E.
And he's part of the master class. I highly recommend, guys, if you can afford the $99 or whatever it is, to join. I was doing it when it wasn't as cheap as it is now. So I've been taking those classes along. We were just talking about that on the radio yesterday. That's hilarious, about these master classes. So
How do you get to them?
Yeah. And they don't always, like Neil Gaiman has one, like they're really good and help you look at your story in a different way. And each one gives you a different perspective, like, and then you can take that and make it your own thing. That's what I tell everybody.
How do you get to those? How do you find those?
I think it's masterclass.com.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Okay.
Yeah, and if you pay for, it's like you pay for one class, or you can pay for 2 and you get access to everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I was doing the $99 a class for a long time.
Yeah.
And taking all the classes.
Yeah.
But now you can take 1 or 2 and get it free for a year.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow.
Excuse me.
Okay. Anything else? All right, guys.
I want to double check with you, Candy. If you said we could record it, but not share your the PowerPoint, but you use the PowerPoint on your recording. Is it okay if we show the video, and just have it on our website or members only page? Is that all right? Or
if it's members only, that's fine. Okay. I'm not super crazy about having it, because it's a paid, I'm making people pay for it. It doesn't feel right for it to be out there free. Does that make sense?
Yes. Okay. So we'll do it just members only. And I just wanted to make sure about that.
Yeah, because I know not everybody could be here today. I totally get that, but I don't want it out there on YouTube.
Sure. Yeah. All right.
All right.
Okay, thank you, Candace.
If you think of something that you forgot, just, message me on any social media. I'll answer. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Facebook. All right. Thanks, guys. It was fun.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Nice seeing you, Bill.